The Graveyard Trader, on Mortality, Coffee, and Market Equanimity. 1. The Window Seat. There exists a state of consciousness so paradoxical, so exquisitely balanced between opposites that I hesitate to name it for fear of reducing its power. It arrives in the pre-dawn darkness at my favorite window counter in Second Cup, where I sit facing the funeral home across the street, coffee in hand, the world still sleeping around me. This is not melancholy, nor is it morbid fascination. It is rather a sort of orgasmic aliveness, the joy of existence heightened to its most acute pitch precisely because I am contemplating its end. Here, at this intersection of caffeine and coffins, I discovered my ideal mental state for day trading. 2. The Cemetery Cafe Phenomenon. I am not alone in this discovery. Across Berlin, a quiet revolution has been unfolding over the past decade. Cemetery cafes have proliferated throughout the German capital, about a dozen establishments, where patrons sip cappuccinos surrounded by headstones, where the living conduct their daily rituals within arm's reach of the dead. At Lisbeth, ensconced in a former parish hall among Japanese cherry trees, manager Chiara D. Martin Topperman notices something remarkable. Customers who pass through the cemetery gates arrive with a different energy than in a normal street cafe, more empathetic, gentler, somehow transformed by proximity to mortality. At Café Friedberg, a social worker named Andre watches mourners hold a eulogy while he eats breakfast. Neil Young playing softly through the speakers. I personally would find it cool if my own funeral could be like that. He reflects, with everyday life still taking place all around me. The Lithuanian yoga teacher Yeva Griglaviciud, a regular at 21 gram in Newcomb, named for the mythical weight of the human soul, articulates what draws people to these spaces. We have a saying that every time someone in the family dies, someone is being born. So it's the same thing here, right? Death and rebirth. It's more about life than death, they say. This is the essential paradox. 3. Death row psychology. But what does any of this have to do with profitable day trading? Everything. The question is not whether you possess trading skills, technical analysis, pattern recognition, risk management. The question is, what state of mind do you inhabit when you deploy those skills? My funeral home coffee shop delivers something that no trading psychology book can adequately teach: equanimity in the face of the unavoidable. When I sit at that window counter contemplating the inevitability waiting across the street, my own death, which at my age feels less like abstraction and more like appointment, I achieve a peculiar freedom. I am, in a sense, already sitting on death row, and on death row, nothing that happens in this life matters anymore. Whether the market moves in my favor or against me, whether today's trade brings profit or loss, whether my account swells or shrinks, none of it registers as existentially significant when held against the ultimate terminus. This is not nihilism, it is liberation. The emotional charge that normally attaches to outcome simply dissipates, leaving behind pure presence, clear perception, and decisive action unburdened by hope or fear. 4. The trader's memento mori. The Stoics understood this. Memento mori, remember you must die, was not a counsel of despair but a technique for living fully. By keeping death always in peripheral vision, they achieved what every trader desperately needs: detachment from outcomes. Without detachment from the process, consider what ruins most traders: not ignorance, but emotion; not lack of strategy, but inability to execute strategy when money is on the line; the fear of loss, the greed for gain, the ego investment in being right. These psychological demons transform potentially profitable systems into losing propositions. We need our trades to matter enough that we take them seriously, but not so much that we distort our judgment trying to control the uncontrollable. The cemetery cafe state of mind threads this needle perfectly. Sitting before my funeral home, I am flooded with the exuberant feeling of being alive. This heightened appreciation makes me engaged, attentive, fully present to what the market may show me. Yet simultaneously, I am free from concern about trading outcomes. This detachment makes me patient, disciplined, willing to take my stop loss without the slightest hesitation, aliveness without attachment, engagement without entanglement. This is the psychological sweet spot where profitable trading happens. 5. Cultivating the state. I did not stumble upon this realization randomly. I noticed that my most delightful state of mind, independent of trading, occurred at that second cup window counter in the pre-dawn darkness funeral home looming across the street. Once I recognized this, I began purposefully entering this state every day before my trading sessions. This is crucial. I did not merely think about death abstractly or remind myself that outcomes don't matter. I physically went to the place, sat in the chair, looked at the building, drank the coffee, and inhabited the embodied experience until that particular quality of consciousness arose naturally, and when it happened, I knew I was ready for my day trading. You may not have a convenient funeral home across from your favorite cafe, but perhaps you can find your own version of this memento mori ritual, some practice that simultaneously amplifies your sense of being alive while relativizing the importance of any single market outcome. The specifics matter less than the psychological pattern. Cultivate a state that combines vitality with equanimity, presence with perspective, engagement with acceptance of loss. 6. The view from the window. As Bernd Bosman, the pioneer of Berlin's cemetery cafe movement, discovered when he opened Finavo in 2006 following the AIDS crisis, these spaces offer a fine place for the dead only when they first become pleasant for the living. The proximity to death becomes, paradoxically, an invitation to fully inhabit life. So too with trading. The acknowledgement of inevitable loss, the acceptance that we are all in the end mortal, becomes the very foundation for participating skillfully in the game. As I sit at my second cup window counter and contemplate the funeral home across the street, I find in the optimal state for engaging the markets. The coffee is good, the darkness is peaceful, and across the street, the future is patiently waiting for me.